Where do you think the self-doubt comes from?
Well, I don't want to throw my grandmother under the bus, but when I was growing up, my mother's mother reared me, and she never trusted herself or anything I said. It always had to come externally for it to be, reliable information. And I think I probably absorbed some of that, that I doubt myself.
Yeah. How about expectations? Did she ever put like a lot of...
No, I think I put the expectations on myself. Because before I went to live with her, I was in fifth grade. And in fifth grade, I was a little holy terror. And I had the potential to go down the wrong path. And when I went to live with her, I was thinking she didn't want me. Of course, she thought I didn't want her. But because I was with her, I was the ultimate goody two-shoes in high school. So.
It's funny with kids. Why do you think it is that as kids, we don't feel like we can talk to people? What are we afraid of?
Well, I was 11 years old, so that might be why I didn't. We did talk about it. Yeah, there's still that underlying feeling, as a kid, losing my parents and losing my great aunt who had been rearing me for a while. Even if she told me she wanted me, I think there was some sort of, underlying thing in me that was like, yeah, I better be a really good girl. Otherwise she might change her mind. Now, for my grandmother, I have no idea why she would think that, but she did. She was insecure. She was a very insecure person, which is funny because she was really, really strong. And she was funny. Everybody loved her except my husband, and she hated my husband.
Really?
Yeah, that came first. She hated Scott way before he disliked her.
Yeah.
The only reason he disliked her is because of her fervent hate of him.
Did she say why she didn't like him?
Oh, she had all kinds of reasons, but it boils down to probably two things. She was afraid he was going to take me away from her, which I had no intention of that happening. Obviously, to some degree, that would happen. But, Scott was more than willing to let us be close.
Yeah.
And the other reason was we don't think she liked men. She generally didn't like men. And that could have been from all her life, or it could be because of my father.
I was going to say, there's some guy in her past that
because she really thinks that, my mother's relationship with my father is what killed my grandfather. He was so heartbroken by what they did.
Oh, okay. I'm going to ask you to elaborate on this, on what they did.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll back up. So my mother was valedictorian of her high school class. She had tons of friends. I think she was very outgoing. I don't know that for a fact, but I think she was. She grew up in a tiny, tiny town in Pennsylvania. And she was, she was a big fish in a little pond. And she decided to go to Catherine Gibbs in New York City. And she moved into an apartment with some girls. And she decided to sow her wild oats, I suppose, would be what you would say. My father, on the other hand, he came from a very domineering father. I don't know, his mother was probably pretty tough too, but his father was like, you had to do it his way, and you had to be the best at everything and all that. And my father was very charismatic. Everybody really liked him. He was really popular. He went to New York City because they lived in Stamford. And I don't know what he was doing in New York City, but he was trying to live up to his father's goals. And he became an alcoholic. Now, exactly how that happened, I don't know. I don't know whether it was the mores of the time. It was the late 50s, early 60s when all this was taking place. So, he showed off for my mother, the fast car, the partying and all that kind of stuff. And my mother, like I said, was sowing her wild oats.
Yeah.
So they got together. And according to my wicked uncle, which is another whole story, theirs was a love affair for the ages. They were living together before people lived together. They had an apartment together. And apparently whenever my grandparents were coming to visit, her girlfriends would help her move all her stuff back into the apartment that they were supposedly sharing. And it's supposedly all that was in there were my father and mother's refrigerator was like a bottle of champagne and, whatever the fancy stuff would have been for them. But My father's alcoholism began to become a problem. It also turns out that he was manic depressive, which I didn't know till later, obviously. And my grandfather, being the domineering person he was, and he was rather wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
I was born, I don't know where everything was going at that point, but I have some really wicked memories of my father being so drunk. Like, I have a vision in my mind of him being at Bellevue Hospital, in a chair, strapped to a chair with the window open and cold air coming in. So that's like one thing I have. I have a lot of other ones too, and I don't know how graphic you want me to be, but
graphic is not good.
But there was a lot of stuff. And my grandfather paid my mother to stay with my father, supposedly.
Okay.
And then he paid her to stay away from him. And then I think she was paid to stay with him again. I mean, it was just this constant thing. Yeah, it was really bizarre. So I don't know much about their relationship. I just know that my mother died when I was 8. And she died of, I believe, cirrhosis of the liver. I'm not really sure, but she hemorrhaged.
Wow. So did you live with them then before?
I lived with my parents until I was 4 years old. And then between 4,
Oh, I was going to say, what happened at 4? Was it your grandfather?
I think, I was passed back and forth a little bit because my parents just could not take care of me. They couldn't handle me. Yeah. I'm not because of me, but because of their messed up lives. So I had a great aunt who was like this Jean Kelly type of person, or Grace Kelly type of person. I mean, like really classy, perfectly hair done, very elegant, very smart. And she took me in. I'm not sure how it worked out that she took me in, but she did. And she took in a number of kids over her years. She was never able to have children of her own.
Yeah.
And she took me in, and I really credit her for giving me some very important basics in my personality or in my life. She was wonderful. She was amazing. I was with her, and when I was about 8 years old, when my father would call her to talk to me, and whenever I got on the phone with him, I would end up crying. I'd be upset. So she finally stopped him from calling me. She didn't let him talk to me anyway. And one day I was at the bus, or I was getting off the school bus, and I got off, and there was my father standing there. I hadn't seen him, hadn't talked to him for I don't know how long, and there he was. And he called me by my nickname, and I was stunned, like I didn't move. And all of a sudden I'm scooped up, thrown hand over hand into a car, and then they drove off with people like running after the car. I mean, it's like big drama. This one woman like grabbed onto the car handle.
Your dad took you. Your dad took you?
Yeah, my dad took me because all I ever wanted was another mother, and he had remarried.
What was the story you were told as to why you weren't living with your parents? You were with your aunt.
I don't remember.
I mean, how does that make you feel? Like, do you remember anything back then, or now? Is it just
I loved being with my aunt.
So it was a good thing.
It was a good thing. I don't remember any feelings about being upset that I wasn't with my parents, but you got to remember some of the stuff I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, like, to be perfectly honest, my mother sexually abused me.
Oh, she did.
She was drunk out of her mind, but she had me do some stuff to her. Yeah. And then there was another time where I saw my mother straddling my father and scratching his chest with a hairbrush and pouring salt on it. Yeah. And then there was another time that I remember I was watching TV, and there were blood drops on my dress, and I was hungry, and I said something to my mother, and she was like slumped over in the bathroom on the toilet. I mean,
Oh, I'm
so I went to my aunt, and of course, it was disciplined. There was plenty of food. There was, she was affectionate to a point. Mm. She didn't talk about deep things, my aunt. She didn't talk, but she still, like, I remember sitting on her lap, and things like that.
Yeah, it was a safe environment.
Exactly. So,
okay. So back to your dad's at the school. How many years after the fact was this? Like, was it just a couple years after?
Well, I think I went to live with my aunt when I was about 4 or 5.
Okay.
And then my father kidnapped me off the bus. It's a little vague. I'm not entirely sure.
So go ahead. He takes you over the shoulders in the car.
Yeah, in the car, hand over hand, and we took off. And then we went to some pull off and switched cars. I mean, it was like a movie.
Wow,
yeah. And then we went to a lawyer's office, and from the lawyer's office, my father called my aunt to tell her that he had me, so at least he didn't make her worry,
No, what's going through your head? Are you happy to see your dad? Are you scared? Are you just confused? What the hell goes through your head at this point?
In all honesty, I think it was exciting. I mean, really,
I know.
And I wasn't scared because it was my father. I mean, I adored my father.
So he never hurt you, even though like you saw him.
No. No, he didn't. At least not that I remember.
Yeah.
No, I thought my father was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead. So he calls your aunt.
Yeah. So he calls my aunt, and then we left. My stepmother and my father and I left and went to some house in the Hamptons for a few days.
Oh, that's not bad.
I know. But see, my father always lived way above his means. He tried to live like his father lived. And yeah. So we went to the Hamptons for a few days. And, of course I was loving that. I think I seem to vaguely recall riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
I had the attention of both of them. I mean, it was great. And then we went back to Stamford and to the house on Rogers Road. I remember that. It had a red door. And I met I think I'd met them before, but my stepsister and stepbrother. Reed was 3 years older than me. And then my stepsister was 6 years older than me. And I was a hypochondriac. I think I was always trying to get attention that way. That was one thing. And my stepbrother and I think we were close. I don't remember too many particular instances, except that when we left each other again, which I'll get to, he wrote me these notes about how much he missed me and all that kind of stuff. But I never got to write him back because I didn't even know about these letters for a while. And my stepsister, she was great. She was 6 years older than me, but she used to take me all over the place with her. I mean, I was exposed to acid and all kinds of stuff. I didn't take any, but I was exposed to it because it was the late 60s, early 70s, and she was partying with her friends, but she took me along. She didn't have any problem with it. But anyway, we lived together for a while, and then we moved into another house in New Canaan.
Had he stopped drinking?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, so we were living together. We moved into this other house in New Canaan that had a swimming pool, and no, his drinking was still bad. I remember one time he had to pick me up from dance class. I was a ballet flunky, by the way.
Yeah.
I took the beginner class, I don't know how many times. I stopped. But anyway, he had to pick me up from ballet, and we were driving home, and he said the brakes went out, but I basically think now that he just zoned out and drifted into a snowdrift. I mean, I'm terrified of brakes failing to this day. But he was drunk. And then I remember at the house in New Canaan, I was I was in the pool, and I thought it was funny that I imitated a drunk diving off the diving board, and I got lectured about how cruel that was by my father's mother, which I guess it was, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then I remember one day my stepsister, I was out with her, and I guess we were leaving the house. I don't know what he was doing. He must have been doing something, but I mean, he was stumbling drunk. And we left the house, and I guess we didn't tell him where we were going. And we drove around, and I still to this day see a vision of my father standing at the end of the driveway looking for us, and us driving right by. It's a horrible image, actually, still.
Oh.
But when we'd been together for, I guess, 2 years, my father's drinking was so bad that he chased my stepbrother with a butcher knife. I don't know why he didn't like my stepbrother. I'm not sure, but my stepmother then decided that was enough. And so they split up and they asked me where I wanted to go. And I wanted to go back to my aunt. And I remember that. So I went there. I did not know that my aunt had lung cancer at the time. I thought she had bad teeth. She always had to keep going to the doctor, and she ended up in the hospital. And, you know, me, I'm like, I don't know anything. And I had a friend across the street. She was like my little sister. She was 3 years younger than me. And we hung out all the time. And we went on a trip to Venezuela with my aunt, this girl and her mother and my aunt and I. And it was a wonderful trip. I had so much fun with Paige, the girl. But apparently she was getting some sort of novel treatment or whatever. I guess this wasn't when I went back to her. This was before. It was the first time I was with her. She must have battled it a long time. Anyway, back to the story. I went back to live with my great aunt, and she decided she wasn't having me stolen off the bus again. So she sent me to this really swanky private school, Greens Farms Academy in Westport, Connecticut. And the bus picked me up right at my door, like literally, like it was a minivan type of thing. And I went to school there, and I went to school with Paul Newman's daughters. And one of his daughters is my age, and she taught me the F-bomb and told me all kinds of stories about her dad and all that kind of thing. And I had another friend that I went to her house, giant house. These were really wealthy people. Yeah. And we would climb through the bushes. And every time I came home from her house, I was destroyed. I had such a good time.
And passed back and forth then. Do you think it affected you, or was it kind of exciting?
I don't know how I felt then, but I know in retrospect, when I finally lived with my mother's mother, she wouldn't let me give in to self-pity at all. The minute I started to feel sorry for myself, she would remind me that I was really lucky that I always had somebody to love me, and she was right. I think that I remember having ice cream at night with one of my aunt's friends in the kitchen. And this friend made some allusion to how sick my aunt was. And I questioned my aunt the next day because I didn't know. She lied. This is what I mean. She wouldn't tell you a lot. This was the hardest part. I was with her through the school year. And at the end of the school year, she wanted to send me either to live with some friends of hers who had two girls who were just a little bit older than me, or I could go back to my grandmother. And I opted for my grandmother. And I left to spend the summer with her. And then in the fall, my grandmother was going to close up her apartment and move into my aunt's guest house. And I was going to live with my aunt or my grandmother in the guest house. Mm. And I got to Pennsylvania, and my aunt died 2 weeks later. And so I was unexpectedly with my grandmother. And that's, I think, where the insecurity at first started was, because she was stuck with me. She expected me for the summer, but not for the rest of my life or her life.
So maybe, do you think that was the difference? And you were passed around a lot, but it seems like they always gave you a choice.
Yeah, I guess they did.
You're like, because I had a chance to go here or here. They asked me where I want to go. So as much as the dysfunction there was, that's kind of cool that they gave you the choice.
Yeah, I was really lucky. I really was. And I look at it now in retrospect as I was where I needed to be at every time of my life. Yeah. Like that formative period of time when I was with my aunt. Yeah. I learned a lot of really important basics. But then as I got to be a teenager, or I was going through, that puberty thing with my aunt who wouldn't talk. She wouldn't talk about getting a period or any of that stuff. There was just no way that you talked about that.
My mom came to me the day of my wedding. I got married when I was 25 and says, we need to have a talk. I'm like, oh, you are way too late. I'm 25 years old. You're going to have the birds and bees talk now.
And was that what she was going to tell you about?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think that was a lot of the generation too back then. You just didn't.
Yeah. But my grandmother, she'd talk about anything.
Yeah.
It surprised her because I'm so open. It surprised the hell out of her. But she would talk to me about anything.
Did your family members know all the crap that went on at your parents' house and all that, or did you kind of keep that quiet?
I don't No, I'm pretty sure I didn't tell my aunt. And thinking about it now, I probably didn't tell my grandmother.
Did you, I mean, like with your mom, the incident, you know, how do you think that affected you, the sexual abuse?
I don't think it had any effect on me
Really?
in terms of I don't, because I think I knew she was really, really drunk. So as far as I was concerned, it was an error on her part.
Yeah. So
Now, whether she did it to me any other times, I don't know.
no shame or anything on your end.
No, I mean, it wasn't
awesome.
me.
You know what? I'm not sure who taught you that, but whoever taught you what you just said is the lesson that every child needs to hear out there. That it wasn't me, it was her.
Yeah, I wasn't.
That's cool. Did you ever actually look at that, what you thought before?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No. Well, let's put it this way. I never considered shame I certainly don't find it easy to talk about particularly, but no, I think if she would have been a serial, abuser, it would have been a problem. I will tell you though, that I do not have warm and fuzzies toward my mother at all.
Yeah. Oh, she's alive.
No, she's gone, long gone.
Okay.
I don't have warm and fuzzies toward her. I think it made me angry. I think I'm angry still.
Yeah.
At her for some of the things I saw. So like when I think of my parents, I forgive her and all because she's gone and she was my mother. Yeah. But sadly, I don't have any warm and fuzzy memories of her like I do of my father. I mean, I have a couple, but I don't relish them in the same way that I might relish the ones with my father. Like my father used to take me to this restaurant called The Buttery that had the best hot fudge sundaes in the world. And we would go to see The Wizard of Oz every time it was in the theater. Like that was our thing. I can't stand the movie anymore, but
when you were growing up, since it sounds like you had kind of a really exciting childhood, did you gravitate more towards stable, secure, or did you like the bad boy, exciting type?
No, teen years and early 20s. Remember, I was a goody two shoes by the time I got to my grandmother.
Goody two shoes.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah. In fact, my rebellion is probably now when I sling the F word like nobody's business.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, there is nothing like that word sometimes.
Yeah, but I've never said F you to anyone. But it was funny, my son, because he writes songs. I remember he's like 6th grade, I think it was. He wrote a song and had the F-bomb in it. And I said, what do you have to say that for? And he's like, because it brings more meaning. And it wasn't until I met Obi that he used to teach me when I first met him. He's like, all right, I got to teach you how to say the word fuck. I remember one time at a Bon Jovi concert, like in the back behind stage, like, and he's going, okay, say it. Fuck. And I'm like, and he's like, no, say it. And I'm like, and finally I was like, fuck. And he goes, that's it right there.
Uh-huh.
Fuck. It is a great word.
Yeah, it's
used in the right context.
Of course, Scott says to me sometimes, do you kiss your children with that mouth? Besides Lissy Newman, he's the other one who taught me these words. So now I swear more than he does.
Yeah, I swear. I have a potty mouth.
Yeah, it's not really, potty mouth's not really the right word for it, I don't think. I think it's just
very descriptive language.
But it's empowering. Something about it is empowering.
That word, saying that word in that context, like when I was just saying it, that feels good, man. That's like,
yeah.
When you were growing up, like 20s, 30s, young adulthood, the issue of self-confidence, was it?
Oh, yeah.
There?
Yeah, that was definitely a problem. Yeah. High school was fine. I was the queen bee of my little circle of friends, a bunch of gay guys and some girls. We were all we were theater people, and I was the queen bee of the theater people. There was no question about it.
So when did you start theater?
I started it I was in it when I was in elementary school too. But when I got into high school, I wanted to be on the drama team in the worst way. And I was in ninth grade, and ninth graders didn't generally get into it, but I did. And so I was in that, and we did competitions. So we'd go to competitions together and stuff. Plays were really weird. The first one I was ever in high school was called Ephemera 2-0. Don't even remember what it was about exactly, except that not the lead character, but the story was surrounding someone in an iron lung. I don't remember any of it. Just that was the name of it, and I was in it. Oh, yeah. So that's what I was getting at. So I was in college, and in college, I dated gay guys all the time. I dated gay guys when I was in high school, too, but I dated gay guys. And then I fell madly in love with one guy. He wasn't gay. No, he wasn't gay, but
Yeah.
He decided that God told him that I wasn't Christian, so he couldn't be with me. And that opened the door for Scott, and Scott, I resisted him for quite a while because I didn't want to get hurt like that again. But anyway, self-confidence. I lacked it. I still lack it. Like, I've always felt that I was destined for some sort of greatness, but I've never been able to break through that wall. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the Jack Canfield thing. And I feel like I made some breakthroughs, but I'm still not there yet. I think I'm like, instead of being this far away from it, I'm like that far away from it now, so it's better, but.
I got you.
Yeah.
I know we've talked.
I know you got it.
I got it. And I'm like, I actually sent Xander a thing because I'm watching all these, I watched a TED Talk. Someone reached out to me from like the ACES Connection who saw my request. And she was a PhD from Virginia. And she did a TED Talk on this stuff. And I mean, I hear Oprah saying the same thing I'm saying, like this woman. And I'm watching all these people who have support behind them that can get out there and be visible. And, I said, Xander, like, this is it, man. I've known this about people since I was 16. I was really intuitive. I just didn't listen to myself, But this is the same shit I've been like saying for years and years to healthcare professionals. And they're like, yeah, go ahead. So now it's like I've been sitting with this inside me, knowing what people need. They need to feel connected. Connection is the mechanism to heal.
Yeah.
And so that's what's coming out now. But I'm sitting here going, okay, still me and all my fucking knowledge, like, is just, as I said,
it seems like you're making strides. I mean, you've got these 2 co-authored books you're working on.
I'm making strides, but it's all strides I'm doing myself. There's no evidence from the outside world, except for an occasional person like this woman who will come to me. And then I talk to them and then they never come again. So then it's that everyday battle going, okay, yes, everyone you like speak to doesn't come back to work with you, but it's not about you. It's not about you. They're just, at times it gets wearing going, oh my God, really? Come on. The evidence is it probably is the way I'm communicating. So there is, but I said to him last night, I'm like, fuck this. I've got to get this out. And I have to do this. I need a partner though. And I don't want to use the word can't, but I'm killing myself trying to do all these. Okay, great. Write the book. Okay, no, do this, do this, do this. I'm like, oh my God, there's just, and every time I change a message, everything has to be changed.
See, I get that 100%, maybe on a smaller level, but like I find myself paralyzed at my desk half the time because I've got to work on EWE, but no, I've got to work on custom stuff, but no, I've got to take care of the house stuff, but no, I've got to work on, that I don't do anything. I mean, in the evening when I should do stuff, I sit there and watch TV.
Yeah, see, now I'll keep on going, but what suffers is me.
Yeah.
Have you spoken like to your friends and stuff? Do they know about all the stuff you went through?
No. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because nobody wants to listen.
Yeah.
It's like my own kids. They have a rudimentary knowledge, like Scott, because I am quote unquote as well adjusted as I am. It's so funny. You hear him express sympathy for all these other people, but like it never occurs to him to be like, wow, Elizabeth, you really got through it. He never thinks of it that way, ever.
Yeah.
Pisses me off.
See, right, because it pisses you off. Why? Why does it piss you off?
Because I would like to be recognized as having survived some difficult circumstances. I would like, him to realize that he's lucky I am who I am. Yeah. And then the minute I say something like that, then I go, I shouldn't say that. There are people who have it so much worse. Yes, there are. But this was something that not everybody could get through.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I know I'm not Scott and it doesn't make a difference. but seriously, I think you fucking rock. And
no, I appreciate that. Yeah. And I feel the same way about you too. So,
but seriously, to come through all that and that one thing you said, I've never heard anyone say that, with your mom, like it wasn't me, it was her. That was way, that's huge. That's
I have to remember that because that was mine. No one told me that one.
Yeah, no, that was yours. You had a sense of you enough to know that it had nothing to do with you. And 99% of people at that age do not know that. Hell, people at our age don't know that. So I take my hat off to you, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's just it. When I tell people my story, if they actually want to listen, they're usually pretty surprised that I am the way I am. But you're dealing with women in poverty and stuff, and I couldn't do that. So, I couldn't be that woman.
No, but here's the thing. I mean, they don't succeed, but in a way, no one. Here's, I think, what the difference is. No one expects anything out of them. If you grew up and nobody expected you to make anything of yourself, and I know you can't, hindsight's 20/20, and it's hard to put yourself in those shoes, but would we as middle-class people, it doesn't matter, white, black, whatever, but as middle-class people who were expected to either go to college or get a job or do something, if nobody expected us to do anything with our lives, would we have been as resilient? Would we have faked it?
I don't think so, because there was that expectation that my grandfather, even though my father's father was very domineering with him, I was his princess. And I remember one time talking to him about how this was after Scott and I had gotten married, and I was working at a jewelry store, and I said, sometime I'd like to manage a jewelry store. And my grandfather goes, own it. Like, okay. So there was the expectation that
yeah.
And I think the expectation does help, although it's odd.
Did they have belief in you behind the expectation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They did.
See, I think, and I don't know how I got so resilient, because there was never one person ever who said, you can do this.
Yeah, I know.
I had to who the hell do you think you are? You can't do that. So, talking about this, does it, and you can be totally honest, does it give you any sense of, does it feel better, worse, or neither?
It actually feels better.
Yeah.
It's, I can appreciate myself a little bit more. Like when I talk about it, I can also, I'm sitting there comparing myself to these women that don't have, anything. And in that sense, I feel guilty for even thinking I went through anything. But, I'm reminding myself that it's pretty remarkable that, I didn't let my past get me. But then I have to give credit to my grandmother and my, all the people who did support me, which is great. Without them, I don't think maybe I wouldn't have turned out the way I did.
Right. If you were just left alone with your parents and you had no one else. Yeah, that's where it gets into.
Well, even my parents believed in me, though.
Oh, okay.
Through it all, I knew that. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
They had me tested or something like that, and they wanted me to go to this school called St. Hilary's. And I don't know why I didn't want to go to St. Hilary's, but for some reason I didn't. But it was like a real coup that I was able to go there. So in that sense, I knew my parents believed in me and thought I was smart and all that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So whatever happened to your dad? Did he pass away?
Oh, well, I was living with my great aunt, and then I went to live with my my mother's mother. And this is sort of dysfunctional. When I was 13 years old, my grandmother had some friends over. I don't know. It might have even been a holiday. It might have even been Christmas Eve. I don't even know. But we got a call, and it was my grandparents telling me that my father had died. And I was very detached, didn't say much, got off the phone, just said my father died, and we went back to whatever it was. And the reason for that is I didn't want to upset my grandmother. And I didn't deal with my father dying until, I don't know, maybe I was 16 or 17.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. I need to ask, back up. You dated gay guys now.
Oh, yeah.
They were gay?
Oh, yeah.
I
don't know if they knew they were gay. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
That's kind of a self-esteem killer. Did you have sex with it? Was it?
No.
Because if you're in a relationship a long time and no one touches you and stuff like that, but then again, you had the base of knowing way early on, it wasn't about you. It was about them.
That was a little different. Let's see. I dated a guy when I was in high school. And I remember, we would make out, but like it was never anything other than kissing.
Yeah.
And when we went to prom together, he was more aggressive than he had ever been. And I was like, wow, this is something new. And he said to me, be quiet or it'll never happen again. And we broke up shortly thereafter. I think that's when he finally, accepted what he was or whatever. And actually, I don't know that he died of AIDS, but he had moved to Rehoboth Beach, which is known to be, and he died. So I think AIDS probably got him. I don't know, but I'm going to guess that. And I am friends with Christopher Radko, the ornament guy, Christmas ornament guy, and I thought I was going to change him. I did find out he was gay. He very tactfully and kindly told me he was gay. I should have known it because he is flaming, but I didn't. He is a kind soul.
Yeah.
But no, I never. I guess I just thought they were respecting me. I still remember the first time Scott stuck his little hand into my shirt.
You went, what's this?
I liked it.
Wow, that's very cool. That's very neat. Guys are great. Gay guys are great.
Oh, they are. They're wonderful. When
I got divorced, I was like, somebody find me a gay guy, would you please? Like, thinks like a woman, but it's also like a man.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now, like years passed and all this, like, who's the woman you see in the mirror?
Depends on my mood. Yeah, it depends on my mood.
Who's the woman is in that mirror that sometimes you can't see her?
She is strong. She's smart. She's powerful. And she can do whatever she wants to do. But the other woman knocks that out of her pretty frequently.
Mm. So, what's the one woman need the other woman who knocks her out to do? Or not to?
Get the fuck out of the way. That's what I need her to do. And I have a hard time with that. I find the most strength when I'm talking to people. Like I had a meeting yesterday about EWE, and I felt that powerful, energetic, strong, whatever. It seems like when I'm meeting with other people, that comes out. I think that's one of the reasons why I think I'm a good salesperson, why I know I'm a good salesperson. But that other woman gets in the way so much and keeps me from doing so much. And I don't know how to tell her, the one that squashes that, how to get out of the way.
What does she say to you, to the powerful woman?
She says, who do you think you are to think you can do these things? Don't you know that people think you're weird? Don't you know that everybody can see you're a fraud? I think that's the biggest thing.
So what's a strong woman say back to her?
Strong woman says, oh, you're right. I'm playing at a game and I have no business playing it. And so she disappears.
Gotcha. So
it's like I'm scared. I need to call people for sponsorships, and I seem to be scared of doing that.
Yeah. But in person, you're okay asking?
But see, you got to make the appointment first, you got to get in there first. And I have a hard time getting to the point. Like, it's weird. I see all kinds of places that I should call on. And then when I get back here, it's like, where was that again? I don't remember it. I think I like subconsciously, forget it. Or
I do the same thing. I think it's like when people, it's really that challenge. It's challenging. The inner critic comes out when we're alone.
Yeah.
Which is also why the poor women, and I realized that after this past year, just sitting home working by myself, man, you got to really fight to shut that inner critic up.
Well, and I work by myself too.
Yeah.
And then I work in a house that, has, which you do too, but it has more laundry. It has 4 people's piles of laundry.
A mess. Trust me, I'm losing control of my house. I look around going, holy shit. The life before, just like, picked up and went.
Yeah. And I mean, and we still have not recovered from Laser's issues, my health issues all happening at one time, along with, Jordan having difficulty dealing with some things at school and having construction done in our house. I mean, we are vastly better. We are definitely on the mend, but like our house is still chaotic. It's not quite as bad as when you were here, Leslie, but it's still really bad.
Now let me ask you a question. When you were like 8 or 9, do you remember, did you want to be something particular when you grew up?
Oh, I always wanted to be an actress. Always. But when I was in high school and my father's father asked me what I wanted to be, I was like, no, you got to find something else to do. What he wanted me to do was be the next Barbara Walters.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have minded being the next Barbara Walters, but I was too afraid to like, I won't drive. Like I could not drive to you.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm terrified of driving on like highways and stuff like that.
Oh, well, I have a trip for us, girl. Then I'm going to come to you and we're going to drive together, but you're going to drive.
Oh.
Or you're okay driving with other people in the car. It's just by yourself.
No, I no. I won't I drive anywhere around here in my neck of the woods. I can drive like an hour away, but driving, oh my gosh, I'd have a nervous breakdown driving to Philadelphia on the expressway or whatever it is. Oh, turnpike. Oh, forget it.
So where I was going with that though is like they usually say that whatever you remember being at 8 is like what that true, like, because you said you felt like you were supposed to do something.
Yeah.
Bigger. Yeah. Here's just a like weird thought, but are there any clubs up there like drama? You can call Penn State School. See?
Oh, we have a local community theater, but I feel like my plate is so full, Leslie, like, with EWE and custom stuff. And the guy who's doing my back office for custom stuff is kind of breathing down my neck about my numbers. I mean, I can either continue to get the split that we have arranged, which is a very generous split.
Right.
Or I can change that and do whatever the heck I want. But I don't want to give up because you can't get it back. Like if I give up the percentage that he wants me to give up.
So then here's something else. I want you to answer this really quickly. Don't think about it.
Okay.
What's happiness to you? Perfect life.
Perfect. Okay, if you want to answer that, everything would have a place in this house. Like everything would be put away, and we could stay on top of it. It wouldn't be constantly a mess, and so therefore, I would have more time for self-care. Like more like it wouldn't be maybe such an effort. And a perfect life would be me being the star of helping people. Like, EWE being such a success and people feeling so good about themselves because of, what I've done with it. But even bigger for me is AB 21, Autism Beyond 21. I want to make that big. I think it can be big. I think it has the potential to be big.
Yeah, I think it does too. So given EWE, and EWE is not a huge moneymaker right now, right?
No.
Can you resell EWE?
Oh, the thought has crossed my mind. In fact, I even thought about selling it this year, but Scott said, no, you can't sell it after only 1 year. It looks like, it didn't work. And it did work. I mean, so I'm waiting. I might, if I can, at some point, hire someone to manage it.
Yeah. Let's say, you're 80 years old, 85, and you're sick and you're on your deathbed. What are you going to look back and say, I wish I did?
Not very creative on this score, Leslie. I'm wondering, when you think about it, I'm wondering if that has to do, I never thought about it like this before, but the tenuousness of my circumstances when I was growing up changing, maybe I do have trouble imagining the future. Mm-hmm. Never thought about that before, but I think that's very likely.
I do. And I think that's with trauma. I think we had talked about that before, like even goal setting. It's you live for the day because the future's, you don't feel secure enough for a future.
Yeah, I never thought about that before, but I think that's really true. Like, so the perfect life would be being able to just pick up and go if Scott, and I want to do something, but still being able to make money, make a living, put stuff back so that, I don't ever really picture me retiring.
Yeah.
I think I'll always be doing something.
Yeah. So it's balance.
Yeah, balance. That, I guess that is it. Yep.
Balance. And that's what I think trauma does. What I was saying, it's either all or nothing. It's same like addictive behavior. It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
You either work till you drop or you don't work at all.
Yeah.
Like you love unhealthy or you don't love at all.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah. I mean, because for me, like I say same thing, I don't have time. But the reality is, at the end of the day, who cares that you work 17 hours a day? In 20 years, is that real? I mean, to do it temporarily to get to a place, but if it's just an ongoing thing, if we do, like, I love the yoga and stuff. If I take time and the money to actually go to a class, would I be way more effective at what I'm doing? Probably.
Yeah. See, I have to think about stuff like that. Like Jordan and I keep wanting to go to the gym and we keep finding excuses all the time not to go, but I really know that I need to do it.
Yeah. And not even for a physical, you need to do it because we're not meant to live life just constantly working.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I get really frustrated. And I'm sure you feel this way too. I feel like all I do is either work or do stuff around the house or watch mindless TV, which I have to admit, I do like the mindless TV, but I feel so guilty wasting so much life doing that.
Well, I think we do like an hour a day TV. That's cool.
Oh, well,
You're not
it's like 3.
Can you meditate well?
No, I haven't really practiced that much, but no, I usually fall asleep.
So here's what they found is that people that experience chronic stress or some type of dysfunction, when you disconnect to get yourself safe when you're a child, you're disconnecting mind and body. So I'm thinking that might be why a lot of people I've talked to had trauma or not Ozzy and Harriet backgrounds, can't see that white light and they have difficulty meditating because historically they've disconnected their mind and their body. Because our minds, like our adults, are like higher self. And this body is like the little girl.
So is it possible to learn how to meditate?
It is. You just have to be very patient. You have to really practice on being really cognizant of your feelings, like checking in throughout the day. It's really important to acknowledge them and say, like, ooh, what was that? Okay. Like yesterday, I was doing an interview with a woman. She was a medium and kind of like a psychic. And we were talking, man, she's like, whew, her background too. But we were talking at the end and she asked me a question about what I was doing. And I just got this like, oh, I want to throw up, kicked in the stomach feeling. And I went through, I'm like, I could feel myself at that moment, just check right out. My head left my body. They just separated. And I said to her, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but she goes, yeah, where'd you? And I think she had actually said to me, where'd you go? And so the interview ended like 5-10 minutes later. And that's the same feeling I get when I meet business people. When someone asks me a question. So I think that's a self-confidence issue. Or self-confidence, or because I always had really big ideas growing up and I was told how stupid and ridiculous they were and stopped dreaming. That when I get faced with someone who doesn't understand what I'm like, the basic simplicity of this, like, you have to acknowledge people and let them and listen to them. I get that same feeling again. That someone's telling, I met a woman the other day who wanted me to train nurses. And after I had lunch with her, and she's like, it's nice. You played for a year. The fantasy's over. And I'm like, fuck you. So I think that you really need to acknowledge what you're feeling. And that feeling's usually in your gut.
Oh, yeah.